Hello, my friend. How are you today?
Oh, fabulous, fabulous. How are you?
Good. You sound a little heated before we got on. Tell me what's going on.
Yes, well, I have lots to say. So I just I've happened to go through a very frustrating process with insurance and pharmacies and patients and all that kind of stuff. Now, let me back up. Patient wanted to start a GLP-1 peptide, right? So basically a Wegovy or an
Yeah,
Ozempic or semaglutide, which is
yeah.
the active component. So I said, perfect. You're the perfect candidate. We've talked about pros and cons. She's all about it. And I asked her before I sent in the prescription, do you think your insurance will cover this? And I specify that knowing that a lot of insurances are not. She
Most of them don't.
says,
Yeah.
right? And she says, I have the best insurance. They cover everything, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, perfect. So I sent in the prescription. They absolutely denied outright. So I sent in a prior auth and I'm calling in saying, no, she needs this. She meets the
They did
criteria, X,
appeal
Y, and
and
Z, right?
things.
I'm now spending extra time on this thing that they should have outright covered,
Covered to
right?
begin with. Yeah.
So it's denied again. She gets frustrated and then is calling me angry, thinking I'm not sending it in or I'm denying it or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think this is happening to a lot of physicians that are
Oh,
trying to help their
absolutely.
patients, right? And what we have found is that the prescriptions are going to the pharmacy and the insurance is saying no. So
Yeah.
now it's no longer a physician and patient relationship. It's the
Right.
physician saying, yes, you should start this medicine for your health. And insurance says, no, I don't think they should.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, because this could
Yeah.
be life changing, right? That we could
Yeah.
reverse so
Yeah.
many things that they've been
Yeah.
dealing with. And insurance has said no. Even the most amazing health insurance, right? That she thought
Right.
she had.
Well, and
Now,
I think patients think that we just have some magic phrase that we can say with that prior auth that gets it approved.
right,
And I think one thing that I see as a misinformation out in the media is that just because you submit a prior auth doesn't mean it gets approved.
right.
Like,
Yep.
you can say all the things you want, and if they're not going to pay for it, they're not going to pay for it. And I can't change that. I can't make them pay for it.
Right.
That's their decision. And unfortunately, they are dictating our patient's healthcare, not me. They're
Right.
not the physician. So
Exactly. Which is crazy, right? That they
yeah.
get to basically could
With no medical license, they get to practice medicine.
yes, and they get to tell me what I can and can't do or can and
Yeah.
can't prescribe.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when patients don't know about that, they think it's the physicians, right, coming back and I'm like, I have my hands tied, right? I've done
Yeah.
literally all I can do.
Yeah.
So looking into this a little bit more, we are seeing more and more insurances that have basically no coverage for weight loss medications.
Yep.
And even more, I think nefarious is that in about I don't
It's
know how
now.
long ago, it's out now. I was going to
Yeah,
say
it's
a lot
now.
of insurances have cut off completely these
Yeah.
peptides for this specific reason. So
Yeah,
now,
I mean, I even experienced this. I know you and I talked about this offline, but I experienced this personally. I had a job change and had the opportunity during open enrollment. So this was like November of last year
mhm,
to change insurance companies. And so I wanted to choose a company, even if my premium went up a little bit, I wanted to choose a company that would cover Manjaro for weight loss
yes,
and or Zepbound.
yep,
And I literally went through probably 18 different insurance plans.
mm,
Not a single one would cover Manjaro or Zepbound, not a
that's
single one.
18.
And so then I even looked for weight loss riders,
Yep.
meaning like you can pay extra in order for them to cover it, and still they weren't covering it. And then even some that were currently covering it were building in exclusions starting January 1 that they were no longer going to cover it. So by the time my open enrollment, by the time I enrolled and became effective, it would not apply to me. And
Right.
so I intentionally was, and I had the opportunity to choose from any plan that's in
Yep.
California. I didn't have to, like I wasn't limited by what my employer provided, et cetera, et cetera. I had the opportunity to look for any plan, and I looked and looked and looked on my own. I then got two different insurance agents to see if they like knew any tricks and tips and which types of plans to look under. And with all of that, they said, "Ooh, no, these are going away." And the insane thing, and I think that this talks about like health equity in health insurance and healthcare, and how obesity and weight medicine is discriminated against. The fact that these companies can choose, like you can't have an exclusion that you're not going to treat high blood pressure. Like, I mean, this is, but I'm gonna get really upset and angry about this and go on a
I
rant.
mean,
Like,
yes.
yeah, like you can't exclude. I mean, I guess companies do like exclude like prior, diagnoses, but like you can't like decide like, oh, well, we're gonna take care of anything, but we're not gonna take care of you if you get in a car accident because you're speeding, like if you were speeding, we're not gonna take care of you. I mean, it's absolute bananas. And I just it's unethical. It's so infuriating. But anyway, so long story short, I'm still paying out of pocket with the savings coupon,
Yeah.
because I was unable to find a single company that would cover Manjaro and or Zepbound, even though it's FDA approved, even though my doctor says that it's best for me, even though I tried stepwise therapy with other medications, even though I had prior auth from my PCP, they would not cover it. So it's infuriating, and I
Absolutely.
I get it. I understand what my patients are going through. Like, I myself have gone through it, and I'm a freaking physician. Am I allowed to say fucking physician?
Yeah. I was gonna
Um,
say it's in the name of the podcast title,
that
so
is true. That is
absolutely,
true.
yes.
I forget which
Yes.
environment I'm in. I'm good at using my filter.
Yes. It is, I think, I mean, frustrating doesn't even cover it, but
Oh,
there's not
doesn't
really
even.
a better word for how devastating this is, right?
Yeah.
For not only us as physicians that are trying to help, but the patients that know there's something
Have
out there for
Yeah,
them and they just
and
don't
have
have
no other
access,
option. Yeah,
right?
and they feel like, and I even wrote this when I was trying to explain it to somebody. I was like, it's like you're drowning and someone showed you a life raft and threw it next to you, but
Mhm.
won't let you use it.
Yep.
I mean, that's how it feels, you know?
Yep.
Um, and people who haven't struggled with this, they don't get it.
Right. Right. And it's hard, I think, for them to understand, but like a time will come. Either they'll understand or they won't, and
Yeah,
they'll understand that people need medication to treat their hypertension the same way that people need
yeah,
medication to treat hormone imbalances and obesity, and you know what I mean, other
yeah,
other issues as well.
yeah,
I think it's really frustrating when you talk about insurance coverage and you'll see what they will cover and they won't. And you notice that, oh, they'll cover bariatric surgery, this massive, massive $40,000 surgery plus anesthesia costs on top of that, plus, whatever, right? And they
yeah,
pay for all the surgeons and the hospital stays, but they won't pay for a medication that can prevent that surgery.
yeah.
And when you compare the side effects of a huge surgery and
Right,
all of the
right.
things that could go wrong
Right, and
versus the
how
side
it
effects.
changes your physiology and how it changes your, which I understand some of the changes good, but the way that it changes your ability to process certain nutrients and the vitamin deficiencies that you live with lifelong, I
Mhm.
mean, you don't get those with the medications. Yes, there's a very rare pancreatitis risk, but there are very rare risks that are equal from the surgery, and you don't have the lifelong vitamin deficiencies.
Right.
And I for people who want surgery, it can be a really wonderful life-saving option, but it is
Yes.
not the right option for everybody.
Right.
And the fact that a insurance company can dictate and decide who gets what and can outright refuse a medication that is life-changing, that is
Mm.
life-saving,
Yep.
is criminal.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
And
So
practicing medicine without a license.
yes, yes, basically at the end of the day, right? Because you have
Yeah,
these people that are saying no, that have no medical background, let
yeah,
alone physician knowledge, right? That get to play willy-nilly with
yeah,
what they will and won't cover.
yeah.
And now they're getting to the point where they're absolutely writing it out and they're
Right,
making
excluding
clauses
it
that
out.
say,
Right,
yes, for whatever reason, we don't care, we will never
yeah,
cover these.
yeah.
Um, and so then it creates this artificial scarcity mindset,
Mhm,
right? That they're available, they
mhm.
just won't cover it. And then
Right.
the other aspect is that if insurance won't cover it, why are we also having a artificial scarcity from the manufacturer? And so we see
Yeah.
sometimes that a lot of people, when they are confused, when they think, oh, I'm a diabetic and I'm taking Ozempic and I've been taking it for the last 10 years, and now all of a sudden I can't get it, it's because all these people that are trying to take Wegovy are now
Right,
getting it. And that's not happening, right? If
right,
we
right,
see that insurance is not covering these,
right,
regardless, it is a uphill battle just to get the Ozempic approved for type 2
right,
diabetes.
right,
They're not willy-nilly giving those away to
right,
non-diabetic patients.
right,
And a lot of people get confused, right?
right.
What is happening for some unknown reason is the manufacturer, even though they knew plenty of time ahead of time, we're talking over a year ago,
Yeah,
to increase their output, they have not done so. And so
yeah.
they are keeping the supply very limited, which is
Oh,
making the demand much greater. What
right.
is interesting is when you compare that to the Mounjaro or the Zepbound, which is a
Yeah,
double peptide medication,
right,
they have made a lot more of that available. And so people are not seeing the scarcity with the
right,
Mounjaro or Zepbound like they are with the Ozempic and
right,
Wegovy. And again, that's manufacturing. So you have a
right,
lot of people with their hands in this pie that are making a mess of everything. And
right,
it's not your neighbor, it's not the other
right,
patients
right,
right out
right,
there. It is other people, it's insurance companies, it's manufacturers, it's, if you want to call it big pharma, it's big pharma. You know what I mean? There's so many other
right,
things that are they're keeping this from you and from patients and having access. So when we take a step back and say, okay, if insurance won't cover this, can I pay for this out of pocket?
Mhm.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
So tell us a little bit about, can you pay for it out of pocket? Have you done that?
yeah,
What are the prices? What are we looking
yeah,
at? Can
yeah,
people
yeah,
afford it?
yeah. First of all, it's bananas expensive and almost nobody can afford it.
Mhm.
Um, Interestingly, even though, like you mentioned, tirzepatide is a dual peptide,
Mhm.
has dual function, um, it is actually a little bit cheaper than Wegovy. Actually, let me back up. Before we get into that, let's just talk about Wegovy versus Ozempic and those price points alone.
Yeah.
So the Ozempic is a little bit cheaper than Wegovy. So say no insurance is a part of the picture. Say you're just walking in with like a handful of cash, which would
Yes.
be
And you're
nice.
like, I have my money, take my money.
Yeah,
Like that meme,
you like
right?
walk into the pharmacy with a
Yes.
briefcase, like you just robbed the bank and now you're going straight to the pharmacy. Hashtag goals.
Yes.
Um, so the typical cash price for Wegovy, or sorry, for Ozempic, is somewhere around $900, and the typical cash price for Wegovy, remember, is the one that is FDA approved specifically for weight loss. That one is cash price at most pharmacies somewhere between $1,300 to $1,400, and that is typically for a 4-week supply.
Okay. So
That's a shit ton of money.
reiterate, reiterate.
That's
So
like more than some mortgages.
Ozempic, $900 a month
Yep,
for only 4 weeks, only
4 weeks.
four doses. And
Yep,
Ozempic, no, sorry, Wegovy, 1,300, 1,300 to
yep,
$1,400 for only, again, 1 month supply,
1 month.
4 weeks.
Yep, which is bananas. So
That is
they,
crazy.
yes. So the manufacturer does have a coupon available, and we'll talk about these manufacturer coupons for all of the drugs. The manufacturer does have a coupon available. The discount for Wegovy is a little bit better than the discount for Ozempic.
Mhm.
The Ozempic coupon is about 150 decrease. The Wegovy coupon is about 500 decrease. So you get $500 off of that $1,400 price.
Okay.
That brings the total um out of pocket cost to very similar. We're talking like $700 versus $800 for Ozempic versus Wegovy, but still $800 for 4 weeks is bananas.
Yep.
And most people cannot afford that. Like, again, that's like more than rent, and that's more than
Yes.
some mortgages. So
Mm.
more than a car payment.
Right. That is insane. And so
Yeah.
when we compare that to the Mounjaro and Zepbound, we're
Yeah.
seeing that the newer ones or the double peptides, the Mounjaro and Zepbound's a little bit easier. What?
Yeah, so they're easier to get a hold of.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is so Wegovy has been on back order, and like we have not, there's like it's not available at the moment. So even if you write a prescription for Wegovy and your pharmacy can't get a hold of it, you won't get the drug.
Right.
Um, there was a time when some pharmacists were ethically changing the prescription over to Ozempic, which I think is appropriate, because if they're both semaglutide and you have one available and you don't have the other brand, who cares? Like, do the right thing for the patient. But that was causing a lot of anger and pushback and emotions, even though we do that for every other drug.
Mhm.
But again, this whole situation with the limited supply has been created artificially and shouldn't be there. And so we ought to be able to substitute them like we do any other drug.
Right.
But anyway, getting off topic here, talking about tirzepatide, meaning, and their two brands are Mounjaro and Zepbound. Mounjaro being the one that was FDA approved first. It was FDA approved for diabetes, but was shown to be like gangbusters amazing for weight loss, and just was now FDA approved for weight loss just a few months ago, and now is available with the name Zepbound, but it's the same medicine.
Yep.
Interestingly, Eli Lilly, the corporation that produces tirzepatide, has chosen not to have a price point difference between Mounjaro and Zepbound, unlike what has been done with Ozempic and Wegovy. So even though Ozempic and Wegovy are the same medicine,
Mhm.
Novo Nordisk has decided that they are going to make, remember, same drug,
Mhm.
that if you're taking it for weight loss, it will be more expensive than if you're taking it for diabetes.
Mhm.
You can get into how that is unethical at a different time, or maybe we will get into it, but they created those two price points. Again, if you use the manufacturer coupon, the manufacturer coupon for weight loss is a little bit higher than the one for diabetes, so they end up at the similar cash price.
Mhm.
But the just initial cost of the medication is significantly higher when you're using it for weight loss.
Right.
And there's talk about like, well, is that the reason why some of these insurance companies are excluding it if you're taking it for weight loss, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Fine. On the Eli Lilly side with Mounjaro and Zepbound, they are the same price
Mhm.
regardless of what you're taking it for. And they both have a manufacturer coupon, so they're both around $1,100.
Mhm.
And they both, well, it's technically 1,075. And they both have a manufacturer coupon that that gives you $500 off. So it ends up being around 575 as the cash price if you're going to pay for that. And again, that's for a 1 month, 4-week supply
Mhm.
of the medication, regardless of the dose. And so what that means is that throughout all of this, Eli Lilly has, although I hate pharmaceutical companies, they have done a good job of keeping up with supply. And although, yes, most pharmacies still have to order it and it takes a few days to get in, I have never had a patient that has not been able to get a hold of it, unlike right now what we're seeing with Wegovy, where it's not been available for months.
Yes.
So
Yep. And what's interesting is that this artificial scarcity that they've created, right, with Wegovy or semaglutide, is that it opens the door for compounding pharmacies to come
yep,
in. And that
absolutely.
too has been another kind of confusion, I think, with patients
Mhm.
and with what's going to happen. And is that actually the actual active ingredient or not? So,
Mhm.
um, I use a lot of compounding pharmacies myself, especially for my patients that are looking for these GLP-1s.
Mhm.
And because we are having such difficulty, right, going through insurance and the big name pharmacies, and because they wanted such crazy amounts of money, we're seeing that these compounding pharmacies can now come in because there's such a shortage, and there's been a
And they're on the
shortage on
FDA shortage
semaglutide.
list,
Yes, for
which
over a year.
limits.
Yes,
Yep.
even though they have been told and they've had access to make more, they are
Right.
refusing.
Right.
And so right now I'm not seeing an end, right, to the
Yeah.
shortage, and therefore,
Unless you get everyone on Zepbound, but
yeah,
they're more expensive. Yeah.
right, right. Um, so as long as you are choosing and going through a quality compounding
Reputable.
pharmacy,
Yeah.
right, that has met all the standards and doing a lot of things,
Right.
the active ingredient is still the same. What
Right.
I like a little bit more about the compounding is that it's less expensive, but they're
Mhm.
also adding in different vitamins that are helping people, right? And so some of that is as simple as a B12, right? You add that to the vial. The B12 is a really good water soluble B vitamin that helps with energy. But sometimes too, when we are not eating as much as we
Eating as much, your
right?
decrease. Yeah.
It's an easy vitamin to miss. And so it's already in your injection. So you're getting a nice pick me up. And then I know some pharmaceutical or some compounding pharmacies will also add some things like L-carnitine and other things would also help with metabolism and other issues. So I, for right now, am going to continue using my very good compounding pharmacy because of that reason. My patients are getting great results, much smaller cash point, and they have
Yeah.
those added vitamins in there. And for now, I can't see that changing just because we're having
Yeah.
such a shortage, right? Now, in the future, it could switch. People
Totally.
could, once they know more about tirzepatide and that it's a dual peptide or a two, right? Two peptides in one, and that they're still getting great results, and they might say, gosh, I really want to go to that one, but pay
Yeah.
the cash price with the manufacturing coupon. It's still going
Yeah.
to be cheaper, right, than Wegovy,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
crazy. But we're just seeing
Yeah.
better results with that. Yeah.
Totally. And I feel an obligation to bring up the Obesity Medicine Association's stance on this.
Oh yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
As someone who is board certified in obesity medicine and is a diplomat of the American Board of Obesity Medicine, the official stance is that we are not supporting compounded medications, and
Mhm.
there are reasons for that. As and hopefully I don't get in hot water for saying this, but as someone who has had these medicines work for myself and has taken both the branded real drug as well as I have personally taken a compound medicine myself,
Mhm.
um, and could not distinguish the difference between the two. I literally felt the exact same down to the identical little rash that I get at my injection site. I mean, the exact same medication, exact same drug, exact same everything. Um, the Obesity Medicine Association does not want us supporting or espousing the compounded medications due to liability reasons, and because there are, and this
Mhm.
is true, and you know this,
Mhm.
there are some places that are hawking what they're claiming is tirzepatide and may not be may not have a good vetting quality control and may not be appropriate compounds and may not be what it says they are and may pose some risks, and you and I absolutely know that that is true, but
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that we should throw away all compounding pharmacies, because there are many that are held to very rigorous standards and put out excellent quality products. And we use them for all different types of medications, whether it be, I'm OBGYN, I treat a lot of menopause and we do a lot of hormone therapy, a lot of the estrase cream that we use in women, all of that is compound because it's very, very challenging to get the prescription version or
Yep.
the brand version. And so if you're using a reputable compounded pharmacy that holds themselves to very rigorous standards, I think that it is a little bit sticking your head in the sand of OMA to have said the things that they have said and have come down on the opinion that they have come down on. And I think that that's really unfortunate. And I think that if you continue to fail to see the difference that these medicines can make, and I'm not saying that obesity medicine physicians don't understand, because they absolutely do, but I don't think that they understand what it's like to have experienced this, because almost every physician that I have talked to that has personally taken them
Mhm.
has their heart and their opinion softened on the stance of our governing body.
Right.
And I'm one of those physicians, and I absolutely will continue to support compounding medicines in the right reputable pharmacy that has been appropriately vetted.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think,
That's true for any
unfortunately,
medicine.
yes, I was gonna say that's the same across the board, right? You have to trust the places where you're getting your stuff. Same with supplements, and I talk to my patients a
Totally.
lot about that as well. And their vitamins, where
Absolutely.
are you getting this from? And oh, I
Absolutely.
got it at some random alley behind
Come on.
Walmart. No, don't do
Exactly.
that. Like,
Exactly.
please don't buy them off
Exactly.
the back of a truck or something. But
Exactly.
we know that the active ingredient helps just make sure it's of quality, right? And
Right,
so as long as you have an access to a high quality
right,
active ingredient peptide or medication, and you have the approval and the use of a physician that's going to help you through this process, then
yep,
I say go for it, right?
yep.
So, man, that's a lot, but thank you for letting me talk about
Yeah,
it because I get so frustrated with stupid
yeah,
insurance.
yeah.
But I
That's
hopefully
a lot of really heavy stuff.
yes. And hopefully we know now, and we've touched on, I think, some of the myths, right, that are out there around these peptides, and who might actually be to blame, and if they're causing an just unfortunate events, right, out
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
And it's not your physician, it's not your next door neighbor that you're having to
yeah.
fight this medication for, but it's insurance and manufacturers, and
Yeah.
but we have found loopholes and ways to get
Workarounds.
around. Yeah.
Yep.
So it kind of just, we got to use what we use,
Yeah.
and they'll continue to benefit our patients that way. So
Yeah. Go see a
needless to say,
physician that you trust, that, or a provider that you trust, that is willing to work with you on these. You can also always reach out to us. And
yeah,
again, we're
absolutely.
not your physician. No physician patient relationship is formed by listening. This podcast is for your entertainment only.
Yep.
Um, but please feel free to reach out to us if you have questions about things we've talked about.
Yeah. And we'll keep asking them along the way. Plus, it helps us with new topics to talk about later on in the future. But otherwise, we'll see you on the other side.